Today, I will be discussing a special topic in interpersonal communication, which is communication privacy management theory and computer-mediated communication. Over the course of the semester, we've learned a lot about self-disclosure, and we've learned that self-disclosure operates a bit differently on social media than it does in face-to-face interaction. And while communication privacy management theory has been studied in many face-to-face contexts, it is really lacking study in CMC. So today I'll be talking a little bit about our access and privacy behaviors. We'll discuss communication privacy management theory and its core principles. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to articulate those core principles of communication privacy management theory in a way that relates to a real-life experience. Facebook did a study in 2009 and found that only 20% of Facebook users changed their privacy settings from the default. But another study found that self-report data of privacy protection contradicts this finding. So this means that while people believe that they have set their privacy settings in a specific way to limit the amount of information, that's not always true. It's also interesting that there are generational differences in the way that we share information online. For example, one study found that 60% of adults allow full access on social networking sites, while only 40% of teens do the same. And also, depending on the platform that we use to disclose information about ourselves, the way that we provide access may be different. So as an example, Graham found that 90% of Twitter users allow full access to their information. Communication privacy management theory was developed by Sandra Petronio in 2002. Some of the primary questions that she had was, how do people manage their private information? What kind of decisions or what decision-making processes are involved in that? And then, what happens when mistakes are made with sharing that information? So CPM asserts largely that individuals have access and privacy needs, and this forms a dialectical tension that drives our choices for how we manage our private information. The core principles of CPM first are that individuals equate private information with personal ownership. So just as I own my iPhone or my car, I own the information that I have and choose to or choose not to share with other people. And people believe that they have a right to control the flow of that information. So how much do I share and who do I share it with? We often develop and use privacy rules to control information based on a few different factors. First, self-monitoring. So, how concerned am I for the appropriateness of my disclosure? We've likely all experienced someone disclose something that seemed inappropriate for the time or the setting. So that's definitely at play. Another characteristic is the cultural expectations that we have. So, for example, many times men are taught not to disclose their emotions or feelings, while it's okay for women to do so. We often consider the risks and potential benefits of sharing that information as well. And whenever we think of risks, we often consider critical incidents, and critical incidents are catalysts for rule changes. So for example, if I confided in a good friend about a secret that I didn't want anyone else to know about, and then after that, she goes to dinner with our friend group and proceeds to tell everyone about what I had just shared with her. This is a critical incident, and based on that, I'm probably going to rethink my rules of how much access I give that friend to my private information. So once private information is disclosed, we have a collective ownership. So once I share my information, that information is yours as well. We have several rules associated with this, and the first is permeability. So how much information should that other person know? A linkage rule is who else can know or become a co-owner of that information. And many times, linkage rules are based on characteristics of the other person. So do they share common interests with us? Do we have an attraction to that person? Or maybe we're considering developing a friendship with them. Finally, ownership rules determine how much control co-owners have over co-owned information. Who else can that person tell? And then how much can they share? The rules are a little bit different depending upon whether I'm an owner or a co-owner of that information. What happens when rules are broken? If rules aren't coordinated, disruption will likely occur, and the result is what Petronio calls boundary turbulence. So this occurs when violations, disruptions, or unintended consequences occur. So as an example, if I were to confide in a friend about a mental health diagnosis, and maybe I even had thoughts about suicide, I wanted to confide in that person, but they were concerned. So maybe they tell my parents. So that's definitely a disruption or a violation because I asked that friend not to share. So as a result of this event, I may revisit or readjust or even renegotiate my privacy expectations or rules with that particular person. So now that we know a little bit more about communication privacy management theory, I have a question. How do we manage privacy in a world where we are constantly giving away our personal information? So as I said a bit earlier, I wanted to provide you a real-world example of privacy management at play. So one really interesting phenomenon that has been occurring more and more, especially with our advances in technology, is revenge pornography. So many times in intimate relationships, we may share pictures or videos of intimate situations or of ourselves, maybe nude photos, that type of thing. So that information is likely only meant to be shared between you and your partner. But what happens when they share it with someone else? What happens when they share it with the world online? So I would like for you to watch a documentary produced by Broadly. They investigate this phenomenon of revenge pornography and address a lot of those privacy issues that we talked about in the context of communication privacy management theory. You'll find a link to this documentary in your Canvas assignment, and I would like for you to reflect on that documentary. So as you create your reflection, remember to include course concepts, especially the concepts related to communication privacy management and self-disclosure. I would also like to note that this documentary does have explicit content, and it also has depictions of sexual harassment. If this type of content is an issue for you, email me and let me know. That way I can provide you with an alternate assignment. Have a great day.